I'm trying to coexist, exist. Yeah, I'm trying to coexist, exist. I'm trying to coexist.
Back to the Ethics Guild podcast. Today, we're tackling a topic that silently plagues some of the highest achievers in the world: imposter syndrome. That nagging, insidious feeling that you don't belong, that you're someone fooling everyone, and your success is purely the result of luck, not competence. It's an invisible battle. And if you're ever felt like your career, your diploma, or your position is a mask, you're terrified it will slip, this conversation is for you. So why not explore a little bit more about this human experience that we all go through, and let's find out what we're really made of when we know how to navigate through imposter syndrome.
Let's start.
Since we're talking about how universal imposter syndrome is, we also have to be sincere about ourselves. Why we all battle imposter syndrome. And it's very simple. We all fear. And fear is not a bad thing. It's your alert warning system. But unfortunately, if your alert warning system is not trained well enough to understand between the danger, where it's going to produce cortisol, is going to produce adrenaline in most cases, because you go into this flight, fight, or freeze situation, you would not be able to learn, as you're more focused on an imminent danger that perhaps doesn't exist. Versus if you learn how to cope with it, if you learn how to provide a different information through the experience, you will be able to train your brain to use fear as a warning system that can be shut down once it understands that you're there in this new environment to learn and that there's no danger. But in order to do this, we must practice. We must understand that the emotion of fear shouldn't lead you to inaction. But I strongly believe that why we all battle imposter syndrome is because of three key pressures in modern life. The first one, take a wild guess, the perfectionism trap. How many of us believe that in order to post something or to do something, it needs to be nearly perfect? Even as you're trained into a new environment, there's a high expectation by societal norms that you should know better. And also think about the elevated standards that society has created, where you don't want to be the one that looks different, that is more vulnerable, that is not adapting as quick as everyone else. So it's a choice at the end of the day to pretend to be that you know, and in reality, you don't know and you don't ask the question to know, or you fall into the one that doesn't know and it's okay with not knowing, but is going to do something about learning what they don't know. And they're not afraid of being seen like they don't know. And also many high achievers make the critical mistake of competence for perfectionism. If you're competent, you can still make mistakes. There's nothing wrong with it. Think about it. If you're competent, that means that you have experimenting very much and you have gone through a lot of failures to learn what you need to learn and to acquire new talent and skill sets. You shouldn't be afraid of experimenting. You shouldn't be afraid of investigating. You shouldn't be afraid of listening to no and a few doors being shut, because one of the most important things to overcome this mindset of being perfect is being resilient. And you have to take into account that success doesn't have to be flawless. It becomes flawless once you have discovered how to make it flawless. But during the process, it can't be flawless. It's going to have its bumps and bruises. And any small mistakes you make does not make you an imposter. I want that to be very clear. As a matter of fact, a mistake makes you take a different route to find the right answer. And there's nothing wrong with that. Think about how many times, in order to find the right couple, the right partner, you had to date a few people that weren't compatible with you. A few people that perhaps didn't have your best interests, a few people that hurt you. But then you start understanding what is that you really need, because you found in those failures what you didn't need. And you start realizing that data served you to now know exactly what you're looking for. And let's not forget that competence is built on making mistakes. You are in a lab. In that lab, it's not about that smooth execution. It's about the consistency, the resilience, and the mindset to overcome challenges and become solution oriented. So what you rather be, competent or perfect? And we can't be perfect. So perhaps the first option is the best option for you. So I want to start with the high achievers' hidden pain. They also suffer from imposter syndrome. And the reason being is because, think about it, if you're highly successful, that means you elevated the bar to the point where could the bar be achievable at some point? If you keep setting it up higher and higher and higher, this provokes a lot of suffering, a lot of internal pain, such as, would I be able to fulfill my deadline? You start doubting yourself. That inner fear comes in to play its role. And a lot of people believe that because if you're a high achiever, you don't get these sensations of doubt, of feeling that, are you competent enough to achieve the new goal that you set yourself up to? But we all suffer from it. And it's all based on fear. Think about it. When we raise the bar on anything, we're going into a realm that is unexplored and we don't know if we will achieve it. But in the process, what we fear the most is the process of failure. And that process of failure makes us start questioning ourselves. Why did we do this? Are we capable of finding the solution? And as we wear these different personas and we're pretending that everything is okay outside because, the team looks up to you. You are that main leader. Everyone is focused on how are you behaving? Are you composed to fulfill the next goal? But yet internally, when you're alone, you start questioning if you make the right decision. And most of the times you will answer yourself that yes, you made the right decision, but were you too ambitious? Should you have set a different goal? And many other questions is the team trained well enough to achieve this new goal and and the worst thing is that we try to convince the world, because we wear this professional mask, that everything is fine, that is achievable. But deep inside, we're terrified because there's nothing guaranteed. We don't know the outcome. And not knowing the outcome makes you walk in a thin line where you don't know if you're going to fall to the left, to the right, or if you're going to make it. The psychological root is often tied into an internal script that says, my worth is only equal to my latest flawless achievement. And so we start having unhealthy comparisons to what we have achieved before in the past. But we are short in memory and we don't remember that during that process, we went through a process of pain too and uncertainty. And when we start to evaluate, we remember the good, but we forget about the hours of work and all the pain we had to endure and the suffering that was necessary to get what we wanted. But yet, as we all know how we react, we always want to achieve more. We're never content with what we already achieved because now we want more and we want to gather more and we want to build more success. The question is that healthy? Should you take a time? Should you take a break before you go into the next quest? Most of the time we think about, well, the others are training better than I. The others are working better and harder than I. And that unhealthy comparison also puts you in that trap. And this isn't simple low self-esteem. It's a profound disconnection between external validation. Think about it. If you ran a company and your competition is doing better than you, immediately you understand that you must do something to compete. But in that competition, you're more focused on being better than others than actually being better for yourself. And that external validation, it might feel really good when everyone's like, yes, you innovated this, you created this, you are the man, you are somebody that was innovative and you pioneer something new. And it's a great sensation to feel the victory. But how long does a victory last? Not too long, right? Then you got to go back into reality that your past success, how are you going to use it to even build yourself up higher? Or you choose to compete once more with others. But the question is, for what reason? Think about it. If you were highly successful and you made a lot of profit and you are already a self-made millionaire. And yes, with this, obviously your lifestyle changes and you might have to maintain it and continue to be success. But there's always a price to pay for that, right? So the price is you're going to always have to work into that loop of continuing to be successful in order to maintain your life cost. Think about how we handle praise, the new paychecks we get, the titles we get when we are highly successful. And then the internal conviction. And most of the times we ask ourselves what you truly believe about your ability. And unfortunately, in that gap, that space between the mass and the self is where the pain accumulates. Because in order to win, we must lose something. And it's proven that very successful people go through depression, go through anxiety. They're not posting it. They don't brag about it because it's difficult to show your vulnerabilities, especially when everyone is praising you and has you at a high standard. But this is where we damage ourselves, pretending to be extremely strong and that we can handle anything because everyone has this vision that a successful leader shouldn't express emotion, shouldn't express vulnerability, shouldn't express that they're stressed or they're tired or they're fatigued because they're the ones everyone is looking up to. But in reality, we're all humans. From the very top to the very bottom, we all feel the same. And imposter syndrome affects everyone. It does not discriminate. And if you don't know, and if you haven't learned how to cope with your true identity and find out why you're thinking it this way, because it could be some past traumas that are hindering around, then eventually it's going to accumulate to the point where you can develop emotional disorders. So it's always suggested, no matter where you are in life, at the very top or the very bottom, doesn't matter, in the middle, wherever you are, what are you going to do with yourself when you're facing imposter syndrome? And when you start accumulating all this sadness and depression about who you're trying to portray every day versus who you really are inside. My second point is the external validation loop. I call this the anxiety loop. And the reason why I call it the anxiety loop is because it's a vicious cycle that sucks you in, and it's very hard to get out. We live in a world of social media and constant performance reviews by complete strangers, people that don't know anything about you, but yet you find value on their likes and comments more than how you validate yourself for creating the content foremost. But the question is, why do we rely so much on these external validations? But it has to do a lot with today, how do we want to be rewarded? And it's very simple. Think about it. How one like gives you immediate gratification. How entertainment keeps you viciously finding something that will stimulate you more and more. And it's so easy, right? It's just with a touch of a button, a digital button. It's so simple. There's no effort that needs to be made. So what happens in your mind is you start creating dopamine. And that dopamine makes you feel good. But eventually, when you stop producing, Eventually, when we start looking at all the likes, the approval from our bosses, what is left in you? How did you approve yourself? Did you do good by your side? Did you recognize and rewarded yourself with grace and dignity? Should that weigh more than someone saying, good job, or putting there a like? And it's all about that internal battle to accept who you are with your faults and also with all your virtues. To define our internal value is to understand that if we tried something, even if it's not a Hollywood production, because in this era, in this digital era, podcasts, even simple videos are done like it's almost a cinematic trailer. And we forget that you can have the best visuals, but if the content and the message are not good, what are you putting out? So if you know that your intentions and what you put out was good enough for you, whatever you get externally, even if you get 1 like or 1,000,000 likes, you should still feel satisfied. The fact that you did the work and you're proud of what you have done. And the same thing at work. At work, if you know that you gave 100% and that you did it for the right reasons, even if it's not recognized, even if others are recognized for doing less, you have to validate the fact. You have to validate the fact that you did what you could with what you knew. And also, everyone has a personal account in their life. At some point, somebody is going to recognize your hard work in silence. So avoid, when we let others hold the key to our self-worth, we become little puppets. We become a body without a soul that is just looking for others to fill in what we should fill in for ourselves. But again, our value, nobody can take away our value. Just like we are responsible to input information to create more skills and value. It's a daily decision we make if we want to increase our value and our self-love and self-sufficiency. And the same way, when things go wrong, nobody can take our value away, because when we learn from our mistakes, it's also a valuable lesson. So value is always in us. Imposter syndrome has created the crisis of authenticity. Think about it. If you don't expose your convictions and you don't stand by your convictions, then who are you? What is your identity? Who are you trying to portray? And the question is very simple. Not you. You're trying to impress everyone except yourself. And the worst part is your unconscious mind knows that you're living a lie. It reminds you, why are you doing this? Why are you taking these steps that are hurting you? Why can't you be honest with yourself? And that's one of the hardest things in psychology, is being honest with ourselves, because it's painful, because it's shameful, because we feel guilty. But it's one of the most common things we do is we blame the world, because it's easier to blame the world than to accept who we are and take responsibility to grow. To grow requires a lot of sacrifices and a lot of suffering. But at the end, we build ourselves to be okay internally and externally. And we create healthy rules based on love, based on unity, based on acceptance, and also based on understanding others as well, and welcoming people to understand you, and being okay with your flaws, but also learning on how to create a new skill set from your flaws and overcome that challenge as well. The worst thing is when we lie to ourselves. This cognitive dissonance creates anxiety, creates that projection of, are we good enough? And when we ask ourselves that question, are we good enough? We're doubting the fact of who we are and our identity. When we doubt ourselves, how hard it is to give, how hard it is for us to take the next step. Think about you going to a battlefield without a shield, without the proper equipment, without the proper tools. You will feel the nakedness in you, that you weren't prepared. And this is exactly what we need to avoid, because anxiety is going to make you question yourself through all the infinite possibilities of what the future can bring. And yet, the most important thing is you are in control of that future, depending on the actions you take to prepare yourself, and also have a strategy and a plan to achieve, and also be flexible to modify things in the process. Modifying yourself makes you adaptable, makes you understand that it's okay to take a different route when a door or path is closed. And again, when you start recognizing that you're taking these different paths and you're adventuring to find who you are, the feeling of being fake starts vanishing. It's simply your authentic self is pushing back to come out and be the real mask that you should be wearing. Be the real you. Be the person that when they're watching a drama, they tear up. It's okay. I tear up when I watch a good movie that is very sentimental. But we must understand and accept who we are. And if we don't do that, we will cause many anxiety disorders. But the worst thing is that anxiety is going to create a fake world for us that will make us doubt every step we take. But we can avoid it if we learn how to accept ourselves and expose who we truly are and work to being responsible if we want to overcome challenges and overcome imposter syndrome. Welcome back again at Decouple Podcast, where we explore human experiences. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do not forget our campaign. We are committed to transform your subscriptions into pro bono programs for mental health, so you can free somebody's mind from their traumas and help them heal just by subscribing. Very simple, and it costs absolutely nothing. Help us through this campaign, and we just want to pay forward, not only to our viewers, but for those that can't afford mental health services. Just remember, the statistics are real. Only 4 out of 10 Americans can afford mental health services. So help us change that. Hopefully, we can move the statistics and perhaps move it from 4 to 5 out of 10 people have good mental health services. Let's start. But we should never lose hope. There's always a path to freedom and mental mastery. You will ask yourself how. The first thing is acknowledging the data. What kind of experiences have you given yourself to prove first who you are, and second, look at your track record, not your emotions. Most people make the critical mistake to justify who they are depending on how they feel. But that is not factual. You don't have to feel qualified to be qualified. I will repeat that again. You don't have to feel qualified to be qualified. What you have done in your life, the experience you gather, the good deeds you've done, the decision you have taken, that has its own value. The relationship you have established, the way you treat others and you treat yourself, all of this critical data should serve you to understand that your track record is more important than how you feel about yourself. Remind yourself, if you finish college, that you have something that validates your hard performance to get a degree. If you're a mom and you put your kids through college, remind yourself of those facts, how hard you had to work. And you should validate yourself that your efforts put your kids into college and now they live a better life. If you're a single parent, the same thing. Validate your facts, validate your certifications, validate your struggles. How did you overcome your struggles? How did you achieve to be free? And how did you choose to love yourself every day and show up for you? We also have to decouple value from outcomes. We have to separate our inherent worth as a person from the outcome of your latest project. And the reason being is because your latest project is in the past. We constantly live in the future. We constantly have to start projecting ourselves to something new. And that new is unknown. And because it's unknown, it's not guaranteed. If you were successful 10 times, that doesn't mean that you will be successful 11 times. There's nothing guaranteed. But you need to be okay. The fact that if you were successful 10 times but failed once, it's okay. That means that you just gotta figure things out and also analyze what was different, what was missing, what could have you done differently. But also now with that loss, turn it into a win. There's always a win and a loss. And that is super valuable because that biggest loss in that moment is going to serve you to create the next 10 wins. And let's separate that failing a task doesn't mean that you fail your identity, that you fail yourself. We fail at a certain objective and goal, but by trying, we didn't fail ourselves because we did it. We attempted it. We gave it all and we had the intention to win. And we have to also be honest and be true professionals. We need to know how to externalize our failure and perhaps talk more about it. Talk more about it in meeting. It's not all about the win. You go to a meeting, everyone is happy. Everyone's supposed to be happy, glamorous, receptive, positive, but nobody talks about failure. Nobody talks about if they had a bad moment throughout the week. Are they going through difficult times? Are they facing divorce? How are they feeling with the environment of work because they're different? We don't talk about those things because unfortunately we want to belong in these social settings, but those social settings is going to hurt you at the long term as well. And this is what I'm talking about. Why we have lost the touch to embrace vulnerability. Vulnerability perhaps is our biggest tool for growth. And yet we believe is a taboo that needs to be talked in a personal setting or with a psychologist, but nevertheless with a leader because it could hinder your promotion, right? They start looking at you different. There's this unconscious bias or a direct bias about, well, this person can't handle this. So does that make you incompetent? Expressing how you feel does not make you incompetent. It makes you true to yourself and the fact that you're dealing with the emotional stance of change. And also you want to stop seeing the inevitable mistakes. You want to start creating new solutions. And in the process of creating new solutions, we can feel fearful and anxious and in sometimes depressed because there are moments of uncertainty. And think about it. In moments of uncertainty is when you have to ask for the most help and not put yourself in a shell, thinking more about the next promotion. How would they see me? Would they view me different? Would they view me as a strong leader? What would change? Don't harm yourself in these ways because that's exactly what imposter syndrome wants, is make you feel fraudulent and that you don't belong and that you need to hide and that you need to be covered up. Shame on you. That's exactly what imposter syndrome wants from you. That's what fear wants you to do. That's what your brain wants you to do. So it doesn't feel the discomfort of evolution. But when you start seeing your vulnerabilities as a sign of just being human and you are able to express your vulnerability without any remorse and without any expectations or the judgment that could come with it. You will drop the mask. And when you drop the mask, imposter syndrome doesn't know where to go and it can't hide anymore. There's nothing else there besides you. And when you see yourself in that mirror and you're able to smile and see who you are, you know that you are more than just near competence and success. This is the beginning of mental mastery and healing, the path to genuine acceptance of who you are. Don't pretend to be who you're not. Have unshakable self-acceptance, because at the end of the day, nobody will suffer more than you when you start wearing personas and masks that hide the beautiful soul that you are. Don't forget to embrace yourself and to give yourself gratitude every day for every single thing that you have that might seem minuscule. But think about it. If you have a bed where to sleep, that's a blessing. You should have gratitude for that. Have gratitude because your parents are still around, because that's something irreplaceable. If you have kids and they're healthy, have gratitude towards that. Gratitude also helps a lot, especially when you believe that you're being an imposter, because they are factual. If you are a good parent, that's a fact. And your kids love you, that's a fact. You can't be an imposter if they love you. So always question your imposter syndrome and ask yourself this question. If you are more than all your achievements, what could stop you? And I'm pretty sure imposter syndrome is not going to stop you at any point in your life, but instead you will believe in yourself. And thank you for walking with us today at Ethics Skill Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. Join our community for more genuine intellectual conversations and stories. But more importantly, your support extends our mission. 1 in 5 people struggle with their mental health, but fewer than half get help. Your subscription isn't just support, it's a lifeline. You will be funding vital mental health programs for those who can't afford them, ensuring no one has to struggle alone. Join us and be the reason why somebody heals. Join us and be part of this mental health revolution. I'll see you next time.